covering all the news from every dark corner of the universe. SliceofSciFi.com.
And welcome, everyone, to another Slice of Sci-Fi. I am Michael Armenengay.
I'm Ben Raggington.
I'm Megan Zier.
And I'm Sam Roberts. Today, we are super excited to be talking to Reggie Lee, whom I'm sure you're familiar with. He's a Filipino-American stage, film, and television actor who's been on a ton of stuff that pushes our geek buttons. Things like Prison Break, Pirates of the Caribbean, Fast and the Furious, Dark Knight Rises, and of course, the reason he's really here, he plays my favorite guy on Grimm, the super funny and sarcastic Sergeant Wu. Welcome, Reggie. It's so nice to have you.
That was a really wonderful last sentence. My jaw dropped a little bit. I have to tell you.
All true.
That was sweet.
It's very true. We love Grimm.
Although after you guys introduced yourselves, I wanted to go, and I'm Reggie Lee. As the fifth group member, I felt left out a little bit. After the intro, I felt really good.
You can join in anytime.
I felt really good.
You can be part of the boy band. We'll do that next time you come back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll make sure that happens.
That sounds good.
So, for the odd person out there that may not be familiar with Grimm, can you tell us a little bit about it and your role on the show?
Yeah, Grimm is a kind of a mishmash of procedural and sci-fi. It's about this guy who plays a detective, not me, someone else. The really dashing, good-looking David Gentoli plays Nick Burkhart, and he can see regular people turn into creatures who are, some of them are bad and some of them are good. So he hunts the bad ones, and he is called a Grimm. And he is the only person that can actually see them change into these, what we call Wesen, these creatures. And they've all got German names, thanks to Jim Kauf, one of our creators, which we can't pronounce. None of them we can pronounce, except for silence. Of course, and expertly he does at that. So we hunt down these Wesen, of course, unbeknownst to me, because I'm the only part of the team now that kind of doesn't know. So I'm still on the down low, and I don't know a thing. But they all know everything, and I feel a little bit left out of the party. But hey, you got to let Sergeant Wu in on the action at some point.
Oh, I don't know.
So hopefully that's coming up soon.
I kind of like you. I kind of like having you clueless. Yeah, I kind of like having you clueless because there's a lot of things that you can do with that character because you're out of the character.
It certainly opens up for a lot of comedy.
Absolutely, because you
can break a lot of tension.
Exactly. You can step on a lot of toes and not know that you're stepping on toes because you're out of the loop. You don't know.
I am so intently listening to you guys because I like that. I like hearing that. You know, it's interesting because I get a lot of questions about, hey, shouldn't you know by now? Or don't you think that
I mean, yeah, at what point does that speak to how, like, unobservant or your lack of deductive skills for that character to not put weird things together? I don't know. But they're too weird.
Why are you staring at that person for 5 minutes at a time? I don't understand.
Or you could do the old Samantha thing where you are in the know, but you choose not to be in the know.
Can I patch you guys into the producers right now?
No, there you go.
As long as we get a cut.
I would love that.
I love it.
Really figured it out and we're just pretending the whole time.
Absolutely. That would be great.
You know what's interesting is one of my friends who was like a dear friend. I've known her since since our Broadway days, shall we say, which goes back a long time ago, a million years BC. But she's like, no, Reggie, you don't understand. There needs to be a balance. There has to be a balance. You have to not know, because what if everyone knew? Then it would just make for a boring show if everyone knew.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, I kind of take that to heart and go, you know what? Yeah, that's kind of right.
Well, you're sort of us.
Out of the party.
You're sort of the everyman, right? Like on Lost, Hurley was sort of the guy who had the reactions that like the people sitting at home would have. I sort of think of your character as like what, like your regular person in that situation would be ignorant but, looking at things a little askance, like, really?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. It's interesting talking about it like outside, talking about like what my character does, because it's like you kind of see the entire picture. So me, Reggie, I'm looking at it going, oh yeah, I wish I was part of that. But on the other side, it's like if you don't know, what could you possibly be missing? Like Wu doesn't know he's missing a thing.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
thinks he's on top of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, he always thinks he's on top. He always thinks he's the smartest one. So what does he care? But it is interesting to hear your feedback on that, and I like it. I like it a lot.
No, I really do. I think that I was looking at Sam at the time, and I said, Samantha, I'm so sorry. I meant Eric the Viking, the Eric the Viking thing, where the guy that didn't believe in the gods and couldn't see any of the stuff.
Yeah.
Remember, that's
Right.
what I was talking about. So that could be you. You don't believe in this stuff, so you refuse to actually acknowledge that it exists.
I see.
That would be awesome.
That
because
would be
there's
funny.
so
Hysterical.
much places, so many places you could go with that, and it'd be hilarious. So,
That's hysterical. Seriously. You know what? I'm going out with David Greenwald for dinner next week, and I'm going to tell him that.
there you go.
He's one of the creators. I'm going to say,
Oh, yeah.
hey,
Have him call
Listen.
me. We'll talk. It'll be great.
As long as we're putting.
next thing you know, like season 3, you have a producer credit.
There you go. Wouldn't be the first time.
Oh,
That's
Oh.
awesome. Hey, as long as you're talking to David, can you put in a request for you and Monroe to have some screen time? Because you two together would
yes.
be great. I see as
You
sort
know
of a.
what's interesting. I have known Silas forever.
Yeah?
We did Prison Break together, but
Right.
we never worked together on Prison Break. But we are also in the same acting class, and we have been for over 10 years.
Hmm.
So every time we're not working, when one of us isn't working, we're always back in class because we're like that. So whenever we've had time in class together, like doing scenes together, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, like kind of working together. We kind of look at each other and go, "This is kind of nuts." It's kind of nuts. But you're right. We rarely have screen time together because you got to keep the funny apart.
I think
You gotta spread it out a little bit.
I understand that, but I think maybe just one special episode where you two have some sort of like strange shenanigan adventure where Monroe's taking care of Wes and stuff and trying to keep you out of loop the whole time.
Believe you me, I'd be the first one to jump on that ship because
Awesome.
that would be a lot of fun, and that would be hysterical. I've had a lot of tweets saying, "Can Monroe and Wu have a spinoff?"
Oh, yeah.
That would be hysterical.
I would watch the heck out of that.
Oh, truly.
Oh,
Be so fun.
So speaking
great.
of like
He's
things,
fantastic. Anyway.
we're talking about things we want to happen. Is there anything you can tell us without getting in trouble about things that are maybe coming up that you can tease for us a little bit to look forward to?
In terms of Wu, I can tell you that he gets in a bit of danger.
Uh-oh.
So, and a lot of stunts happen.
Oh.
Lots of different stunts happen. So there's that, and there's certainly more to come. And they've teased this. They've teased me about finally getting a first name.
That's right.
Besides Sergeant.
I was looking
It's
up
not
your
Sergeant.
name and I could not find a first name. It was only Sergeant Wu.
Contrary to popular belief, it's not Sergeant. I have actually pitched Lou.
Lou
So
Wu.
that I was And everyone at Comic-Con seemed to like it, but I don't know that NBC likes it. So I guess Lou might be out of the question. But I have to tell you that, every time I'm given like a rap sheet or anything like that, our prop guys are really great, and they're very accurate, and they're very specific. So they have to put, the sergeant who's taking care of the case, and they always put Sergeant L. Wu. Because they know that I want Lou to happen. But, I think one of the writers is pitching Archibald. Someone else is pitching Winston. But it's going to be a story point that's coming up.
Well,
so
see,
that's coming up.
You could do
I've seen-
you can do a Dr. Seuss episode, and then you can be Lou Woo Hoo. It'd be
Someone
perfect.
already said that. I said that in a previous interview, and they were like, "Ooh, Dr. Seuss would be very happy,
It would be
very,
awesome.
very happy." But it's crazy that's like the most exciting part of my life is getting a first name. How wonderful!
That is great. That is great.
Why can't I see creatures? No. It's good. I think, you know what? You guys have a great point, and I love that point. I'm seriously going to bring it up, and I'm seriously going to get you a producer credit.
No, okay. Awesome. I love it.
We'll hold you to that. So, do you have anything else besides Grimm that you're working on that you could maybe tell us about? Do you get busy during the hiatus? What do you get up to?
Here's what I get up to. I get up to renting a villa in Italy and during the hiatus. Well, so here's what we had. We had the first hiatus that we had was a month, literally a month. So that wasn't enough to do anything. And we just wanted to rest, basically, for that month. And then we had a 2-month hiatus, which fell during Christmas and New Year's. So no one worked during Christmas and New Year's. And even if there was work during Christmas and New Year's, those are like my favorite holidays. I don't want to work during that time.
Okay.
So I opted to take a vacation to Italy, literally. And it's always been my dream. It was my dream to kind of rent a villa. So I thought, what better time than when you're on a series to go rent a villa in Italy? So I did. And I stayed there for like 10 days, and it was great. It was a 3-bedroom villa by myself, and I ran around to each bedroom. And I had to use each one. So it was kind of fun doing that. But, it's in terms of like there are certainly things hopefully coming up on this hiatus. Well, we're hoping it's just a hiatus, right? We haven't been officially renewed, but we're all very optimistic. We're all very optimistic. It's been one of NBC's pretty stalwart shows, and it's proven to hold its numbers, and we're happy because it's sci-fi, and you guys are a slice of sci-fi, so hopefully that makes everyone happy.
We are very happy.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this being around for a long time.
Well,
we're grateful.
I was very happy to kind of look at the history of stuff that you have done in the past, and you've been on some little bit parts, but some cool stuff. A little bit of Star Trek, a little bit of The Dark Knight Rises.
It's interesting. It's the big movies I have little bit parts in, and then the smaller movies I have bigger parts in, which I guess it should be. It should be like that, right? For now.
Exactly.
But it's been great fun. It all started with the Fast and the Furious, and that happened 10 years ago. Lord God. And I think I was even blonde for that part.
No.
I had a bit of spiky blonde hair. So you'll have to look that up.
Which Fast and Furious? Was that the Drift? Was that Tokyo Drift?
No, we're talking the first one.
The first
We're
one.
talking the very first one.
Really?
When none of us knew what it was going to be.
Yeah.
At that particular point, we didn't know that it was going to make the money that it was going to make. So, that was a great time. I mean, it was the first time that Vin and Paul had done it. And, of course, in everything, I play pretty much a bad guy. Except for Grimm. With the exception of that. But, the sarcasm makes up for that. So that was a pretty decent-sized role. That was a pretty big supporting role, and that was fun. And then that kind of led to Pirates. Which was a pretty big role, too. I played Chow Yun-Fat's right-hand man.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was doing Pirates, I did Prison Break, and that was kind of hellish. But it only because I was doing a series and finishing the movie at the same time. But, it's like when it rains, it pours. It's kind of how this business is. It's kind of cyclical that way, and that it's when it all comes, and you can't say no. Because you never know. Listen, all of us, from me to all these guys that I worked with in Tropic Thunder, to Tom Cruise and Ben Stiller and Jack Black, they all think they're never going to work again. And then I have to punch them in the face, and then they wake up. And I say, look at the rest of us. We all think the same way. All actors are kind of like that. We all think, after a certain project, you're never going to work again. And fortunately, we do. You kind of get to a point when you're old and decrepit, and you kind of wake up and you go, you know what? This is kind of what I do for a living, so I guess I can be doing it for a while. And some of us are fortunate enough and blessed enough to be able to do it, so I'm one of the lucky ones.
No, I'm looking at
But I have to say, I have worked my ass off.
Well,
I have really worked at it. So.
Your resume certainly shows it. I mean, there's a very nice variety of work that you've done, but one thing that I think all of us in the studio notice is that you do keep seeming to fall into these genre-type projects. Star Trek, Batman. Is this something of your own choosing? I mean, does your agent say, there's a little bit part, you might be interested in that? I mean, how did you manage to keep falling into these kinds of roles?
Maybe that's where they see Asian American males going. Is the genre movies. I have lucked out so bad on what I mean, in a good way, in what I've been given, you know, and what's come onto my plate. And there have been several times where I've had choices to make and whatnot. But fortunately, I've been given some great stuff to do, some comedy and some sci-fi. And you're right, a lot of genre stuff, and that seems to be where they seem to stick me. Even Drag Me to Hell, which is a Sam Raimi film, you know, is genre. It's like a horror film with kind of a crossover into sci-fi with the way he does it. But it's all been because they've all been assholes. And that's my genre. Believe it or not, that's my real genre.
Jerks.
Bad guy / asshole.
Nice.
So that's you might have to edit that out for PG-13. I don't know.
Just
No,
But,
work around it.
You know,
We'll figure it out.
Funny, 'cause Sam Raimi, after a rehearsal that we were doing, he was like, you know, you do that really well. You have to have some of that in you.
oh,
Some of that asshole.
Oh, that's just being
And I
mean.
thought, I love you. No, but you know what? It's funny because I would consider myself kind of like a kind of fun, kind of generous guy. You know, in real life, I mean, I'm kind of I like people. I like to have fun. I feel like I'm a good run of the mill guy. I know how boring, right? But some people come up to me and go, "How do you play bad guys so well?" In that you're not really a bad guy in real life. But you know what? That's kind of like where I take it out. I take it out on people like on set in my imagination. And
Yeah,
I
but-
kind of leave it for that. But you know what? I've got a great imagination when it comes to that. So
Yeah, but the bad guys are always the fun roles to have. They're
Well,
always they're the ones that have the richest, you know, backstory, and you can play in the character so much
and
better.
they get to do the craziest
absolutely.
things.
And I think, and
I agree.
and
you
a lot
can
of
shoot people.
yeah,
Yeah.
I did this movie. I did this movie with Jason Statham.
Oh, I love him.
It's called Safe. It's called Safe. It was a Lionsgate release. It was
Oh,
out
yes.
last year, and I played basically his main bad guy. But it was such a great character because bad guys don't normally think that they're doing bad things. I mean, no, bad guys are usually like doing the thing, you know, just kind of like surviving and doing their thing. But then they paired me with this 10-year-old girl who I supposedly adopted from China in order to help us commit these crimes, in which she had to memorize numbers because she was really good at memorizing really long numbers and cracking a safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with her for like, in the story, I was with her for a year. In that year, I ended up kind of like falling for her as my daughter. Like I became this fatherly figure towards her. So I had kind of this complex relationship with her where I was like, oh no, I don't know if I want to let her get into all that, because now I'm starting to really care for her. That was one of the most favorite roles that I've ever played, because it was one guy who gets to shoot people at the drop of a hat. In the same sentence, he's a guy that really loves this little girl, you know? So I don't think, you know, a lot of ingenue guy roles would be able to play. I mean, you can't really like, they don't get it, they don't venture into that territory. So I love venturing into the territory that Wu gets to venture into. You know, it's just, you don't get to be real sarcastic all the time as the lead of a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people would hate you. As a sidekick, yeah. They would like, you know, they would really like you.
And
so
that's
I think
what's really cool about the gray characters. I like the characters that aren't black, they're not white, they're gray. They're the bad guys, but yet, just like you said, the daughter story. It's
Dimensionality.
Like there's so much more dimension to. Are you a comic book fan by any means? Do you?
No, believe it or not, no. But you know what? My brother used to work for Top Cow. He's an artist, and he used to work for a comic book. I mean, he drew ISIS.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
He's a great comic book artist, but I'm not. He's got tons of comic books, but I'm not. Anyway, go ahead. We could talk forever.
No, because that's what I always loved about comic books. Because mostly all the characters in comic books, unless you're talking about DC, are very gray characters. You know, your characters always have so much dimensionality to them. They're not just all good, all evil. They have different levels, and it's those layers that is what I see in a lot of the characters that you're playing here. This is cool stuff.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, that's kind of why we act, and I think that's why I do it, because I feel like there's never a perfect. You know, you can never hit perfect when you're acting. There's so many more layers that you can always go down. There's no, even like a guy like Sergeant Wu, you know, he's been a cop for, say, probably 15 years at least, 15 to 20 years. There's no way I can do enough work in my lifetime to be able to cover the depth of what he is or who he is. You know, and I like that. I like kind of going deeper, because people that are sarcastic, for instance, like Sergeant Wu, people that are sarcastic are really pretty insecure. If you do the research on the psychology of sarcasm, it's like those people are usually insecure if they're sarcastic all the time. So I had to kind of find that. And I was like, you know what, he's insecure about something. There's something that he's not. And part of it for me, playing Sergeant Wu, is the fact that he's not out on the field all the time. A sergeant is actually, you know, he feels probably like, you know, Nick is better than him, or that Hank is better than him.
Yeah.
So he's got to make it up. He's got to make up for it in some way, shape, or form, either by being comedic or being sarcastic, or you know, saying something bad about someone, but in a sarcastic way. It's kind of fun to play with that, you know, and I think that that's kind of a cool part of him. And then you're right. He's kind of a wild card character. You can take him in any direction. And that's what I love about it. I mean, that's the only reason I took this role, was because I was testing for some other roles, and I had actually auditioned for the Hank role, which is David's partner. And it came down to three of us. It was Russell, myself, and another guy, which shall remain nameless, but you would know the name if I should. But so it came down to and a white guy. I'm just going to say that. and we were walking out of the parking lot, and I was telling Russell, we were walking out together, and I said, you know, good luck. I hope if I don't get it, that you get it. And he said the same. Of course, in the back of our minds, you know what we were thinking. We hope we got it. And Russell got it, of course, like 10 minutes later. And then in the next couple hours, they called my agent, and they said, listen, they really like Reggie, and they would like to write a role for him in the series. So they called me and said, would you be interested? And I was testing for two other shows, actually. One called The River, and one called Awake.
Awake.
My friend Steve Wong got.
Wow,
yeah.
Awake.
I loved that show.
Yeah, really great writing, but I think I chose the right show.
Yeah.
So I was like,
I would agree.
Really happy. But anyway, David Greenwald and Jim Kauf pitched this character to me, and the kind of stuff that he was going to get into. And, you know, I think there's definitely more to come. And they've pitched me, you know, stuff that's going to happen. They've asked me for Filipino/Chinese fairy tales. So it's very collaborative, and I'm so happy with what's going on. But I think there's definitely more depth to be mined. And you're right, it is these kind of secondary supporting characters that kind of get that. Fortunately, I fall into that category, so I'm real happy where I am.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, it's you're a fascinating guy to talk to, and you're so much fun. You can come back and see us anytime.
I will, because you know what? 26 minutes went by fast.
It does go by very, very quickly. So we do have a few minutes left, but give you a chance to just kind of tell us, what do you got in the works? Do you have anything else that we need to cover before we take off?
Oh no! I mean, Grimm is keeping me busy, but we can't take anything else until, well, there are a few movies that are kind of in the pot boiling for the summer, so I can't talk about those, but I will come back and talk about them after I know that something's come to fruition for sure.
Absolutely.
But for now, definitely watch Grimm, because the second part of this second season is real action packed, and Wu gets into a lot of trouble.
I've been loving it so far. Hey, you mentioned, are you on Twitter? Do you have a handle we want to pimp?
I am. You can find me at Mr. Reggie Lee.
Mr. Reggie Lee.
So follow me on Twitter, and I'll let you know. I'm actually live tweeting the show. I'm live tweeting the show tomorrow night, but I'll also live tweet next week. So you can put that on there.
Awesome.
Awesome. Websites, Facebook, any of that stuff, or you don't have time for
just Twitter. I'm
just Twitter.
Twitterer.
Smart.
I'm
Focus.
just a Twitterer. A
Focus.
tweeter. You guys have been awesome. I've loved
awesome.
being on. You guys are awesome people.
Well, we definitely try. And you folks out there, definitely, if you have not checked out Grimm, you need to do so. It is a great show. Awesome characters, awesome character development, great stories.
Highly
It's just a
recommended.
premise.
Highly recommended. And also, I think interesting because there were two fairy tale oriented shows that came out about the same time, right? Grimm and Once Upon a
Right.
Time, and they've both been very successful.
And they're both
but
very
they both have
different.
very different tones,
Truly.
right? And
Very
Grimm
different.
Grimm
Yeah.
is a
That was
little
one of the
grayer.
questions that we got. We initially got that question a lot, was how are you going to be different from Once
Yeah.
Upon a Time? But
Yeah.
but now everyone knows.
Yeah, it's so different.
Absolutely. Well,
Well, thank you guys.
Absolutely. It has been awesome talking to you today, and we expect nothing but great things from you. It's
Thanks, my
just
friend.
been fun
Thank
to
you.
watch, and we're going to continue to do so.
Alrighty.
Awesome.
All righty.
Take care.
Thank you, Reggie. All right, folks.
Okay, thank you. It's been my pleasure. Bye-bye.
That is going to do it for this episode of Sci-Fi. We will be back with more very soon, of course. You could catch Grimm. It's on NBC. We'll be back with the next show in a couple
Couple of
days or
days.
so. Whatever. Anyway, thanks, everyone. Goodbye. You know that thing.